The most vulnerable time in tennis is when you are leading, even if the match point appears, everything is possible. Football is round, and tennis is also round. Keywords of the novel. No pop-ups at the competition point. Download the complete set of competition point TXT, and read the latest chapters at the competition point. Chapter 1. Brilliant Sunshine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Brilliant Sunshine. Gao1. Gao1. A warm and chaotic mass surrounded Gao1, and the floating and heavy wandering made his consciousness gradually blurred. His focus shifted into a halo, and he couldn't see the outline lines clearly. He only vaguely caught a touch of blue, a clear blue, and he couldn't help but want to reach out and touch it. Get closer, get closer. Gao1. A call came from the ear, exploding like a thunderbolt. The rolling waves of energy burst forth with fierce force, breaking the balance of the body. The pull of gravity tightly gripped the heart, reflexively swinging limbs, trying to regain balance and grab the life-saving straw. Plunging into the blue, and then standing steadily on the ground with both feet, a sense of solidity emanated from the soles of the feet, highlighting the frantic pounding of the heart against the chest. There was a roar above the eardrums, and the focus of the gaze returned to focus. The blue gradually evolved into gold, and the brilliant and dazzling gold collided into the depths of the pupils. In front of me was a square doll face, with black hair and black eyes. The deep facial features of thick eyebrows and big eyes revealed a hint of handsomeness. Although the corners of my mouth were slightly pursed, I could still feel a faint smile between my eyebrows, revealing a hint of joy and youthful vigor. This is MacDonald. Gao1 is a bit confused. Mackenzie MacDonald was his college alumnus and tennis teammate during his time at the University of California, Los Angeles. He had spent countless days sweating, training, and playing together, but after graduating from college, they embarked on a completely different path. He gave up tennis due to a knee injury and returned to China to become an ordinary office worker. MacDonald became a professional tennis player with impressive performance. The last time I saw news about MacDonald was on TV. At the Australian Open at the beginning of this year, MacDonald beat 3 top players in a row and advanced to the round of 16, tying his best record in a Grand Slam and performing exceptionally well. Gao1 sincerely felt happy for his friend who had fought side by side in the past, standing in the distance to send his blessings. However, due to the differences in their life trajectories, the two had not been in touch for a long time, let alone having face-to-face conversations. So, what exactly is going on at this moment? Amidst a plethora of question marks, Gao1 finally realized that the environment they were in was not a company, not an apartment, but a tennis court. The deep blue collides with the light blue hard tennis court, forming a tangled ball like a fishing net. The stepped seats extend upwards along all sides to form a deep well space, and the tall trees planted neatly along the field rustle in the breeze. So unfamiliar, yet so familiar. The sun that had just risen in the morning penetrated through the trees and scattered mottled on the field. Gao1 couldn't help but extend his right hand, feeling the warmth of the golden sun falling on his palm. Then he could see a supermarket shopping cart filled with tennis balls. Those tennis balls started to explode due to excessive use, like angry birds, recording their memories of youth. Ha! A gust of strong wind blew, the treetops rustled, light and shadow flowed, and then Gao1 noticed the familiar sign on the edge of the court. University of California, Los Angeles Brown Bear. Wait, is this his alma mater? But how did he get from Mordor to Los Angeles? Why did he appear on the school tennis court? Is it all just a dream? But if it's a dream, all of this is too real, so real. Perfect. Gao1, what's wrong? Haven't you woken up yet? MacDonald bumped into Gawain's shoulder and joked with a frown and eyes. Or do you want to be lazy and push the preparation work onto me? Looking at MacDonald's wheat-colored skin, it seems like one can feel the traces of sunlight left on it, and the collagen of youth is still full of vitality. Gao Wen's thoughts were slightly pulled back, and he spread out his hands to make a helpless gesture and replied. "Oh my, the trick has been punctured." MacDonald was just joking, looking at Gao Wen's confession and feeling a bit embarrassed. He touched his nose and said, all right, I wasn't feeling well the day before yesterday. You were the only one who did the cleaning work after the training. Let me take care of today's preparation work." Sure enough, MacDonald was an honest person. As I remember, before Gawain said anything more, he had already taken the initiative to consider everything. Gao Wen deliberately raised an eyebrow at his friend and made a victorious V gesture to celebrate his success in escaping the preparation work. MacDonald looked depressed and protested with his eyes. He was about to catch Gao Wen as soon as he stepped forward, but he didn't expect Gao Wen's reaction speed to be even faster. He retreated one step earlier and dodged. "You guy!" MacDonald gritted his teeth and shouted, lifting his hand to smash the tennis ball in his hand. As Gao Wen was still running away, he threw the tennis ball and cursed as he chased after him. The two of them chased around the field, like young children, pure and bright laughter surging in their chests, as if even the sunlight was dancing with their footsteps. Once, they were so carefree, believing in the sunshine, believing in the future, believing in hope, but even the simplest running and chasing can bring happiness, but gradually, they all grew up, and their happiness disappeared. Happiness became increasingly difficult, and in the end, they were all trapped in an endless gray chaos. Like a walking corpse. Only when watching a tennis game can one feel a faint passion in the depths of their soul again. However, looking down at the ugly surgical scar on their knees, they feel sore and unbearable every rainy day, unable to sleep all night, and can only turn off the TV disheartened. Knees. After slowing down a lot, Gao Wen realized that his knee was not swollen and painful as usual. Not only was it not swollen and painful, but it also moved freely and was as light as a swallow, as if he had never been injured before. An emergency break, from the toes to the calves, passing through the knees and extending to the thighs, allows Gao Wen to clearly feel the tightness and control of the muscles. The light and elastic tension perfectly controls the body, and even in high-speed running, the knees can perfectly withstand the impact. Smile, lingering at the corner of his mouth, Gao Wen looked down at his knees in disbelief, a smooth, flat, and healthy knee. The terrifying scars left by multiple surgeries in his memory have all disappeared, and he can hardly remember what his knee looked like without scars before the surgery. But now, no scars, no pain, no swelling, nothing, intact as before. Bang! Gao Wen's emergency braking was really sudden, and MacDonald completely did not expect it. Like a high-speed train, a collision accident would occur if one could not control it well. He was about to fall into a ball, but he did not expect Gao Wen to withstand the impact and adjust his steps several times in a row. Not only did he control his center of gravity balance, but he also successfully prevented MacDonald from falling. Sorry. MacDonald's first reaction was to apologize, although he didn't understand what was going on. He still blurted out the apology. Gao Wen lowered his head to look at his knees, feeling the flexibility and ease of his healthy knees. He could even clearly feel every detail of muscle and bone operation, just like a brand new machine with plenty of lubricating oil. Everything was original and the performance was excellent. Naturally, joy and happiness surged in the chest. Raising his head, he looked at MacDonald's nervous expression, even before he could even adjust his breathing. He expressed his apologies in a bewildered way, and his smile bloomed at the corner of Gao Wen's mouth. Ha ha. He chuckled blankly. The more he laughed, the happier he became. Like a fool. MacDonald was slightly stunned, inexplicably looking at the foolish Gao Wen. He turned around to ensure that no one else saw their foolish behavior. Between keeping a distance to avoid being infected with foolishness and joining friends to be foolish, he hesitated for a moment, but ultimately chose the latter. Puzzling. MacDonald couldn't hold back and watched as Gawain shook his head repeatedly, then laughed along. With a smile, the laughter burst into full bloom, and the spirited laughter echoed on the tennis court, sparking a ray of sunshine. Gawain, the smile became even more brilliant. He has returned. Second chance. In the darkest, most exhausted, and most helpless years of life, he had thought more than once, how good it would be if everything could be restarted. I didn't expect that things would actually happen now. He really won the second chance to start over from scratch, and that kind of happiness is indescribable. However, when exactly is it now? He will never forget that his first knee injury was on February 15, 2014, now that the knee is still intact, it should be before that point in time. Looking at MacDonald, whose face was still youthful and immature, and then at the tennis court waiting to be decorated at the dawn, those memories buried deep in the dust slowly woke up. At this time, it should be December 2013. The specific date still needs further confirmation. If there are no surprises, this should be during the winter training period of the tennis school team, preparing for the upcoming spring season in 2 months. Gawain and MacDonald, both freshmen, have just joined the team for less than half a year. They are the first to arrive at the stadium every day for decoration and the last to leave the stadium to tidy up their equipment. In November of that year, he had just turned 18 years old, and a vast world lay before him, even the gasping and gasping sounds were full of vitality. Buzz, a slight jolt came to my mind, and the next second, a set of light blue fonts appeared on the retina. The system has been activated. What is this? Something. Just as Gawain thought he was dizzy, another set of light blue fonts appeared. Growth potential plus 0.01%. Is this a rebirth benefit? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Training Masters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Training Masters. Wow. Gawain's head, deeply buried in the sink, suddenly lifted up. Fresh oxygen rushed into his lungs, creating a refreshing sensation. The chaos and excitement in his mind cooled down slightly, and he looked at the youthful face in the water-stained mirror that still had a hint of greenness. It was familiar, but more so, unfamiliar. Wet and short black hair drooped like water grass, with fingers outstretched and combed back. Her facial features were fully exposed, and her sharp eyebrows and plump eyebrows were faintly enough to exude a stubborn and rebellious spirit, so vigorous and vibrant, with a sharp and angular outline that carried an 18-year-old aura. Gawain can no longer remember. At the age of 18, he was also a highly regarded genius. He once believed that he could win a Grand Slam and become the world's #1 champion, until the cruel reality of procrastination and blow made the sharpness between his eyebrows gradually round and eventually disappear completely. However, the projection in front of me is somewhat different. His eyes were no longer green or immature, and his introverted sharpness revealed a sense of stability. He could vaguely see the appearance of working overtime at the company in a tired state last night, and the reality gradually became real. This was when Gawain truly confirmed it. He returned to 2013 from 2021 and returned to his first year of college. At this moment, it is still the golden age for the four giants to rule the tennis industry. The new generation of 90s generation is facing comprehensive suppression, and the 95s generation teenagers have not yet been able to grow up. Although lacking fresh faces, the battles between the four giants are classic, and every game is undoubtedly happy for fans. In fact, looking back from 2021, it was only a short 7 years ago, but Gawain always felt that it seemed like something from the last century. Especially after experiencing the magic of 2020 and 2021, time seems to have been disrupted, and Gawain needs a little time to slow down his nerves. After informing MacDonald, Gawain went to the bathroom, washed his face, and finally calmed down. The down-to-earth sense of reality gradually became clear, and the chaotic thoughts gradually sorted out a clue. System, yes, system. Taking a long breath, Gawain gazed at himself in the mirror. Reason had returned, and then he summoned the newly appeared system again. All he needed to do was concentrate and silently summon it from the bottom of his heart. A virtual pale blue interface would appear on the retina. Tennis Training Master. The first page is divided into 2 sections, with personal basic information on the left. Name. Gao Wen. Nationality. Chinese. Age. 18. Birthday. November 11, 1995. Habit. Hand. Right. Height. 193 centimeters. Weight. 83 kilograms. On the right side, it is further divided into 4 subsections, with 3 sections representing personal attributes. Physical attributes. 52 technical attributes. 63 spiritual attribute. 70. Each attribute occupies a section, where attribute sub-items can also be seen, such as body attributes including strength, burst, speed, reaction, endurance, and flexibility. The technical attributes include serving, returning, forehand, backhand, in front of the net, and forehand. The spiritual attributes include tactics, focus, resilience, and key shots. The interesting thing here is that the specific values of attribute sub-items cannot be seen, and only a series of bar charts can be seen to vaguely distinguish the high and low values of attributes. However, if the difference is too small, it is difficult to distinguish them clearly. The highest value of physical attributes is endurance, followed by flexibility, the lowest value is strength, and the second to last is explosive. The highest value in technical attributes is anticipation, followed by backhand, and the lowest value is serving and forehand. The 4 sub-items in the mental attributes are almost the same and relatively average, with the highest value being tactical and slightly ahead. The entire panel can only see the scores of 3 comprehensive attributes, and cannot see the values of specific items, but this can already estimate a player's style. Gao Wen was born in a small city along the coast of the East and South China Seas in China. When he was young, he was very active and loved running, like a wild horse that couldn't be pulled no matter how hard it was. His family considered letting him learn a sport to improve his skills, because his mother particularly liked the tennis superstar Andre Agassi, so he chose the relatively unpopular tennis of the past. Unexpectedly, he was discovered to have a natural talent for tennis by playing crooked and upright. As shown in the attribute data, Gao Wen's body attributes are weak links, with a thin body and a lack of strength. His forehand and serve are relatively weak, which directly leads to Gao Wen's backhand being only able to grip the racket with both hands. Because the strength of a single-handed backhand is not enough, it requires support from the left hand. Relatively speaking, Gao Wen's backhand and movement are excellent, demonstrating impressive abilities at a young age. However, tennis is not a sport that requires direct physical contact and confrontation, such as football, basketball, rugby, or boxing. It is an indirect competitive sport that requires a combination of skills and strength, as well as flexible mobility. The requirements for height-to-weight ratio are relatively special. Taking Novak Djokovic as an example, 188 centimeters and 80 kilograms are not robust. In Gao Wen's words, overall, he is still relatively thin, but for tennis, he is already sufficient. However, his lack of strength and explosiveness has an impact on both technique and tactics. Gao Wen's truly impressive tennis talent lies in his ball feel and hand feel. The so-called ball sensation refers to the understanding of tennis. Just like football and basketball, when a tennis ball is flying in the air, it is always able to grasp its rotation and changes, which is very evident during non-racket training. Roger Federer's ball sense is unparalleled in the world. The so-called tactile sensation refers to the feeling of the racket touching the ball. The main focus is on controlling the small muscles in the arms, as tennis is a sport about rotation and strength. At the moment when tennis hits the racket at high speed, how to understand, analyze, wrap, apply force, and so on. Agnieszka Radwanska, currently ranked 4th in the world, is a genius with a once-in-a-decade feel. Of course, ball feel and hand feel are often inseparable, and they are a kind of talent that is difficult to cultivate and improve through training. They cannot be displayed in terms of physical and technical qualities, but they are definitely one of the most important and precious talents in ball sports. In addition, Gao Wen has demonstrated excellent potential in ball business. That is to play ball with the mind. The interpretation of the battle situation and tactical arrangement have already shown signs in the beginner stage, and naturally, the advantages and disadvantages of physical fitness have been balanced, and they quickly found their position on the tennis court. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Growth Potential. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Growth Potential. In 2001, at the age of 6, Gao Wen started playing tennis. That year, Lleyton Hewitt defeated Peter Sampras at the US Open to win his first Grand Slam championship, and in October of the same year, he became the youngest world number 1 in history at the age of only 20 and 8 months. At that time, the Enlightenment coach believed that even if the forehand strength was insufficient, Gao Wen could still grow up using Hewitt as a template. In 2008, Gao Wen graduated from primary school. That year, Rafael Nadal was the top scorer in men's professional tennis, with forehand strength and defensive counterattacks being iconic representatives. At this moment, both Gao Wen's mother and coach realized that in order to fulfill his talent and become a professional, Gao Wen still had an incredibly long road to go. On the one hand, Gao Wen needs more professional training, and coaching resources in small and medium-sized cities are relatively scarce. On the other hand, the high cost of professional tennis training also makes it difficult for Gao Wenjia to afford. After careful consideration, Gao Wen's mother chose the route of American high schools and universities, which is the Youth Tennis League and NCAA. NCAA, an American college league that includes basketball, rugby, tennis, and more, has a complete league system that serves as a stepping stone to continuously deliver countless talents to professional leagues. At the same time, universities attach great importance to the league and are willing to provide special scholarships to help students train. The difference between NCAA and professional tennis schools is that NCAA believes that not all athletes can enter the professional field, and they need to ensure the future of these student athletes, first students, then athletes, distinguished from professional athletes. In this way, even if one cannot transfer to a professional league after graduation, they can still obtain a diploma. So, NCAA has a minimum credit requirement for all players, otherwise they will be banned directly. For Gao Wen's mother, NCAA is undoubtedly the best choice. The shortcomings of Gao Wen's physical condition may bring more restrictions in the future, which may not necessarily lead to a career transition. Therefore, in the absence of effective financial support from the family, entering NCAA for professional training can ensure academic performance and prepare for future development. This is the best choice. Gao Wen, who is also hardworking and energetic enough, has been awarded a tennis scholarship along the way, as well as an academic scholarship, riding the wind and waves from high school to university. Unfortunately, Gao Wen's mother's concerns eventually arose as injuries hindered her progress. So, after graduating from college, he joined a public relations company and became an office worker. Once, Gao Wen thought more than once, if he had not suffered any injuries, what would happen if he could continue to receive training? Now that a second opportunity has really appeared, what should I do? The line of sight once again falls on the property panel. Even if we start over again, the problem still exists. The key is how to face the problem and how to solve it. Will we repeat the same mistake when February 15th approaches again? Perhaps he can find the answer in this system. Thinking of this, my gaze falls on the fourth plate in the lower right corner. Level title: Advanced Growth Potential. 36.01%. What do these represent? The eyebrows furrowed slightly, and the focus of the gaze fell on the advanced person. Naturally, an explanatory text appeared. Advancers, who learn the advanced stage of tennis, possess a strong competitive level, representing the top level among non-professional players and the advanced level of young people who are about to transition to the profession. I see. Below the explanatory text, you can also see 2 pages. Flip down to see more explanations. Beginners, in the early stages of learning tennis, represent a rapid improvement in their abilities. Intermediate level, the intermediate stage of learning tennis, representing the higher level of youth and adults. Intermediate level in amateur sports. That is to say, from beginners to intermediate to advanced players, all of these are within the scope of non-professional players, and they are almost at the professional level. Advanced players should be at the top level of non-professional players. Galwan has already won the titles of beginner and intermediate, and now it is the 3rd stage. NCAA is a competitive league, but objectively speaking, they are not of professional level. If you go to professional competitions, they are often low-level hope matches and challenge matches, with competitors being players ranked outside the top 500 in the world, making it difficult to show more competitiveness in ATP and WTA level professional competitions. At least, the general average is like this. But I don't know how far from advanced to professional level. So, what about growth potential? Growth potential can be obtained through basic training, daily training, and competitions. The specific value will vary depending on the content, intensity, difficulty, and method of training or competition. The entire explanation is relatively written and vague, without further detailed knowledge, but it is not difficult to understand. Just like a game, receiving tasks, killing monsters, and gaining experience, then, the experience value is determined based on the difficulty of the task and the level of the monster. So, should the newly emerged growth potential plus 0.01% be due to his pursuit with McDonald? No, more precisely, it should be running. Thinking of this, Galwan immediately started standing high leg training in the bathroom. If it were normal, Galwan would never be so reckless and impulsive, and the bathroom is obviously not suitable for training, but after experiencing a series of incredible events, it seemed to have regained some youthful energy. The excitement were uncontrollable, and I couldn't wait to try, feeling an impulse. So, he did it that way. Step by step. Step by step. Growth potential plus 0.01%, growth potential plus 0.01%, a series of blue fonts refresh upwards along the retina, and the visible growth makes the adrenaline burst out, causing the mood to jump with joy. After stopping the high leg lifting movement, it still jumps lightly in place. Does this mean that as long as you train persistently, you can improve? Also, what happens when the growth potential reaches 100%? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Effect doubling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Effect doubling. What would happen if the growth potential reaches 100%? Galwan is a bit curious. The entire winter training lasts for 6 weeks, and then they will enter the NCAA spring season. With the Christmas holiday during this period and the adjustment time before the start of the season, it means he still has a full 2 months to understand the operation of the system, improve his strength, and change the trajectory of fate. 2 months, time is still a bit tight. Galwan has already started to read and is eager to try, wishing he could immediately dive into training. But is this all about the system? Refocus your attention, carefully examine the entire clean interface, and then return to the left page, landing on a booklet icon below your personal profile. The thick booklet appears thick and profound. Just now, he thought it was the detailed content of various attributes and needed to wait until the upgrade to open it, but it seems not. Focusing on the booklet, a soft white light brushed past, and clear colors rippled like waves, entering a brand new page. A large line of characters hangs directly above. Training Handbook, double the training effect, can be upgraded. Below is a neatly arranged row of icons, each representing different meanings. Strength training, explosive training, flexibility training, reaction training, speed training, footstep training, serve training, catching training, forehand training, backhand training, bottom line training, online training, ball training, intercept training, high pressure training, cutting training, mobile training, tactical training, densely arranged horizontally and vertically, like a treasure trove. Gao Wen was stunned. It turned out that this was the real essence of the tennis training master. The key was not the body data. So all the detailed data were hidden, and the specific values were not disclosed, and it lies in the training manual, which is detailed and specific, breaking down into every detail of each project. More importantly, the training effect doubles, can be upgraded, the effectiveness of host basic training, daily training, and competitions can be doubled. That is to say, 1 hour of training can achieve twice the actual effect. If Gao Wen's understanding is correct, then this is the biggest golden finger. Even if you have a system, you still need to train yourself to improve. The harder you work, the more you will naturally gain. If you don't work hard, you won't be able to eat for free. The ultimate level of system effectiveness depends entirely on your own efforts and persistence. Goo-goo. Goo-goo. Blood began to boil, and Gao Wen could no longer bear it. He was ready to start training and officially experience what it was like to double the training effect. Turning around, he opened the bathroom door and saw McDonald waiting at the door. His worried expression could be seen with his eyebrows slightly leaning towards the center, which warmed Gao Wen's heart slightly. McDonald, don't be fooled by his name. In fact, he is a Chinese-English mixed-race child with half Chinese ancestry, and his maternal grandparents are the first-generation immigrants from Guangdong. As a third-generation immigrant, he is not proficient in Chinese and only learned some in high school, but his level is shallow. Compared to Gao Wen, McDonald's resume is much better. Last year, he made it to the semi-finals of the youth group at the Australian Open and also won a Hope Tournament championship in North America, demonstrating his talent and strength early on. However, McDonald's physical condition is not the best either, at 178 centimeters and 73 kilograms, mainly due to his height limiting the threatening effect of serving. To open up the game in the professional arena, he indeed needs to face more challenges. Therefore, he also entered the NCAA and continued to train while studying. In September this year, McDonald and Gawain joined the University of California, Los Angeles tennis team as freshmen for the 2013 cohort. When two talents meet, their familiar faces bring them closer together. Moreover, as a freshman rookie, McDonald's grades were not worth mentioning and he had no airs at all. He joined the ranks of freshmen with a down-to-earth attitude, working together with Gao Wen and helping each other out. He was also the best partner during regular training. Today, Gao Wen's series of reactions were really strange, and then he tossed around in the bathroom for a while, but it didn't show up for a long time. McDonald couldn't help but feel a little worried. But upon seeing Gao Wen appear, McDonald cleared his throat again with restraint, concealing his worries. You've been occupying the bathroom all this time, and I can't even use it if I want to. Gao Wen widened his eyes and slowly looked at the unused bathroom next door, then slowly looked at McDonald, speaking with his eyes. Babbling, a gentle breeze blew, and the bathroom door panel swayed gently. McDonald immediately realized that his lie had been exposed, awkwardly scratched his head, and could only honestly explain, "You've been inside for so long without any movement. I strongly suspect that you deliberately left me working outside." It was supposed to be a joke, but McDonald realized he didn't have the talent for joking and jokes were not funny at all. In the end, he chose to give up. "Are you worried about whether you can make it to the starting lineup? There's no need to think too much, you should believe in yourself. The coach has always loved your tactics and inspiration on the field. As long as you work hard in winter training, the starting lineup will definitely be fine." Of course, Gao Wen is not worried about his main position. In his previous life, he successfully entered the starting lineup and joined the team to compete in the spring season. In the end, the team won the runner-up in the Pacific 12 Schools League and unfortunately ended up in the semi-finals of the American Championship. Just a mainstay. "Mike, your goal is too simple, at least it should be number 1 singles." Gao Wen looked at McDonald and blinked, smiling. Mike is the nickname of Mackenzie, and it has been a long time since Gao Wen called out this name. The long-lost familiarity once again made the smile on his lips rise again. He can't remember the last time he smiled so frequently, exactly when. But for MacDonald, he was not unfamiliar. Although Gawain's smile was a bit silly and strange today, it was still within a reasonable range. He just stared at Gawain, slightly stunned, and then reacted, clapping and laughing, nodding in agreement. Yes, yes, at least it should be number one singles, at least. In competitive sports, everything requires strength to speak. It's not just about saying, world number one, that one can become the world number one. But how can one truly achieve it if they don't even have the courage to dream? Players who aim to become second in the world may never be able to become first in their lifetime. At the moment when both feet step onto the court, victory is the only goal, constantly pushing oneself to the limit. The championship trophy represents not only defeating opponents, but also a higher, faster, and stronger battle. Only by believing in one's ability to create miracles can one witness true miracles. If the Grand Slam champion and the world number one are really too far away, it would be a bit excessive to aim now. So, let's first set a small goal, starting from the Brown Bears number one singles. How about that? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Service Practice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Service Practice. The main lineup of the NCAA tennis team consists of 6 singles and 6 doubles positions, as well as 6 substitute positions. It is also very common for singles players to balance doubles matches. In team matches, a total of 3 doubles and 6 singles matches are required. It is precisely because of this that even freshmen can compete for the main position. Previously, the autumn season from September to November had just come to an end. As a traditional NCAA tennis powerhouse, the Brown Bears had a total of 4 players entering the U.S. singles rankings. Naturally, these 4 players also made it to the starting lineup, including MacDonald, who played the 4th singles. In addition, 4 players, including Gao Wen, each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and their performance and strength are not on par. They will compete for the positions of number 5 singles and number 6 singles. So, the first small goal after rebirth is number 6. No, it should be the position of number 1 in singles. Mike, how about starting training now? Gao Wenma's fist rubbed his palm and jumped like a deer, bouncing towards the direction of the court. MacDonald was stunned and said, now. But coach, they still need a while. Winter training is when the entire tennis team trains together to prepare for the spring season. However, according to NCAA regulations, the weekly training hours are not allowed to exceed 20 hours, in order to protect the player's career life, avoid premature injuries, and ensure academic completion. During the off-season, the total training time per week is compressed to 9 hours, as December is also the time for the college final exams. Before the Christmas holiday, students still have heavy learning and exam tasks to complete, which is an unshakable absolute bottom line for NCAA. It is precisely because of this that winter training is actually easier than regular training. Now, the team's coaching team and other teammates have not yet arrived at the training ground, and Gao Wen is already eager to go out for training. MacDonald's head is full of question marks. Although Gao Wen's training is usually very diligent, such an anxious appearance is rare. What's going on today? In a daze, MacDonald also rushed out, and then he could see that Gao Wen had already started serving practice. In tennis matches, the serving section is the most unique because it is the only section that is not disturbed by opponents and completely controlled by oneself. Once the serve is completed, the next round is for players to compete against each other, confront, calculate, compress, and counterattack. Both sides need to complete one decision after another that may change the direction of the game in 1/1000th of a second, and both sides are restraining each other. It can truly be said to be constantly changing. This also highlights the importance of serving more and more. If one can establish an advantage through serving, they can seize the opportunity in the following rounds. In fact, after understanding the connection between tennis and table tennis, one can better understand the sport of tennis. In the 19th century, tennis was popular throughout Europe, but due to limitations in the field and weather, it could not be played frequently. Therefore, British university students came up with a way to bring tennis indoors, using a dining table as a table and introducing the same rules but making some adjustments, and founded table tennis. This is now table tennis. The International Table Tennis Federation is called International Table Tennis Federation. Although the literal translation of ping pong has gradually become well known, table tennis is still the official name of table tennis. By understanding table tennis, one can have a preliminary understanding of tennis. These two sports, both about the art of rotation, require strong support from strength and explosiveness, as well as continuous calculation from the brain. They also value the advantages established by serving power. The attacking layout of the first three shots can often widen the gap. The importance of serving is self-evident. However, when it comes to specific serving techniques, there are significant differences between table tennis and tennis. The serve in tennis is a full-body movement. Bend knees, kick the ground, straighten the knees, twist the waist and straighten the back, then pour all the power towards the racket, complete friction and downward pressure, like swinging a whip, and throw it out with all your strength. This is a coherent movement, with power originating from the soles of the feet, and after a series of movements, it is infused into the palms. If any link fails, the serving effect may not be satisfactory. In a fiercely competitive game, as we enter the latter half, our physical strength severely declines, our thighs cannot be pushed up, and our leg strength cannot be transmitted upwards. Therefore, we can only rely on the strength of our arms and shoulders to complete the serve, resulting in a rapid decrease in speed and accuracy, and even continuous errors. Regarded as one of the best serving players in history, the top superstar Andy Roddick can be seen from his serve movements. The knee is like a spring, and the entire movement of kicking and exerting force is very full. The body is like a full bow, pouring all the strength onto the racket. At the moment of serving, you can even see the tennis ball being directly flattened, creating the effect of a cannon serving. So, serving training in tennis is also very complex. In the absence of a ball, it is common to practice basic movements, break down movements, complete movements, and start at 500 beats with a swing in the air. In the presence of a ball, it is necessary to repeat the above actions to continuously deepen muscle memory and stabilize the serving motion. It is also common to serve 200 times. And all of these are just training serve movements, and have not really entered practical training yet. Next, we will practice different types of serve, pursuing the ultimate speed of the flat shot, emphasizing the landing point of the spinning ball, and fully utilizing the technique of cutting serve. The main focus will be on the contact between the racket and the tennis ball, as well as the use of wrist strength. This has not yet entered practical practice. Then, it's the landing practice, also known as serving practice. The first stage of practice is to divide the serve area into 9 squares, and each time require the serve landing point to enter the designated target area. In the second stage, the 9 squares will be developed into 90.980.1 squares, with a total of 81 small squares. The goal is to enter the designated area every time the serve lands. It can be considered abnormal. Therefore, those top serving masters often start with 500 shots in their daily practice of serving. In front of him, considering that the tennis court was not divided into 9 squares, Gal 1 was practicing a simplified landing point serve against the wall, with a particularly pleasant bang. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Equivalent returns. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6 Equivalent returns. Bang. Outer dead corner. Bang. Bottom line middle road. Bang. Outer inner corner. Gal 1 is standing behind the serve line, facing the wall, at a distance of 12 meters, practicing his serve landing. The length of the tennis court is 23.77 meters, which is 11.885 meters at half court. Therefore, when practicing serving against the wall, the standard is also 12 meters. A 99/81 grid is neatly pasted on the wall with tape, requiring each serve to accurately fall into the target grid. Just one column close to the serving baseline is divided into 9 landing points, and Gao Wen's every serving practice can accurately hit. Weight isn't serving a weakness of Gao Wen. Firstly, this is practice. Without pressure, the hit rate naturally increases significantly. Secondly, Gao Wen's serve is a weakness, but his true weakness lies in his strength, not his landing point. Moreover, even strength is relative. Don't forget that a height of 193 centimeters ensures the height of the point of entry for the serve. With the advantage of height, press down with all your strength, which ensures the height of the tennis net and the speed of hitting. Another legendary serving cannon player, Ivo Karlovic, stands at a height of 211 centimeters, making him a giant. Height can often be an innate advantage in serving, but tennis is not basketball, and height is not necessarily better. For a long time in the development of professional tennis, it was widely believed that the optimal height for tennis players should be in the range of 180 centimeters to 188 centimeters, and the higher the better. Firstly, when moving, if the height exceeds a certain value, the movement becomes less flexible and even appears cumbersome. Secondly, the center of gravity is too high. When facing a topspin ball, players must squat low enough to pull the tennis ball up, but players who are too tall often cannot squat down. Among the Big Four, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal are both 185 centimeters tall, while Novak Djokovic is 188 centimeters tall, all within this ideal range. Only Andy Murray is 191 centimeters, slightly higher, but not much. However, with the advancement of training methods, the number of players born after 1995 who are over 190 centimeters tall has gradually increased. They possess the advantages of height, as well as excellent mobility and footwork, and their innate conditions have been more efficiently transformed. A height of 193 centimeters does have a more positive impact on Gao Wen's height, but what truly limits serving is still strength. If the power cannot increase, on the one hand, the serving speed cannot increase, and on the other hand, the tail force of the serving is relatively weak, unable to create more threats. Gao Wen also knows that his strength is insufficient, so when serving, he practices the landing point more finely, and then fully utilizes his height advantage to make up for his shortcomings. He hopes to create more opportunities in the serving process. From the accuracy of the landing point, Gao Wen has always been right. Bang! Bang! The sound of tennis balls colliding with the wall echoed on the court with wonderful rhythms. Quickly, Gao Wen discovered that the training manuals provided by the system were indeed different, more refined, detailed, and targeted. For example, when serving from the inner corner and aiming at the dead corner inside the serving area, at this landing point, the system also proposes more detailed training requirements, not just flat shots and spin shots. Flat shot, as the name suggests, is a powerful hit. Tennis lacks rotation and goes straight and forth, fully infused with speed and strength. The average speed of a top serving player's flat shot is over 200 km per hour, and regular training involves fully exerting force and practicing landing points. The system proposes different ways of brushing the ball, that is, the time it takes for the racket face to brush the tennis ball. The shorter the time, the lower the bounce of the tennis ball after landing, the longer the time, the higher the bounce of the tennis ball after landing. That is to say, although the flat shot lacks rotational changes and only wins with speed, the system still requires that the flat shot can also undergo changes, disrupting the opponent's receiving rhythm. Imagine the opponent seeing a flat serve and assuming to receive the serve in the comfortable area between the waist and chest, but the height of the tennis bounce is outside the comfortable area. They must make adjustments again. If the adjustments are not timely or in place, they will either directly receive the serve or return a vegetable ball. Rotating the ball, making full use of the friction between the racket and the tennis ball to create changes, reduces speed and strength correspondingly, and the average serving speed may decrease to 180 km per hour or even lower. However, the changes in topspin, underspin, and sidespin can increase the difficulty of the opponent's judgment. The system also puts forward strict training requirements, including upward rotation, downward rotation, outward rotation, inward rotation, as well as the two most special methods, the rapid acceleration of force application and the stagnation of force reduction. The former is the tail force, and the jumping speed after landing is faster than imagined. The latter is to lure the enemy deeper, and after landing and bouncing, there is almost no strength left to move forward. The essence of both types of serve changes lies in changing the rhythm, disrupting the opponent's predictions, and forcing them to be flustered. That is to say, with just one landing point, the system proposes 12 combinations, and each method requires 10 correct serves to be sent. If the serving effect does not meet expectations, then it must be served again until it meets the expected effect. Bang! Bang! One after another, one after another. In the blink of an eye, I had already practiced serving more than 150 times, and the tennis balls in the entire supermarket shopping cart were completely emptied. Mustard yellow tennis balls scattered around the corners of the tennis court, and the sun was slowly climbing up my head. Sweat had soaked my clothes, bathed in golden sunlight, and steam was rising from my hair, as if I was practicing martial arts hard. Although this is just a practice of serving as a landing point, to complete all the practice of serving, it may still require years of accumulation and cannot be achieved overnight, but Gao Wen could still feel the happiness and joy overflowing in his chest, and a smile bloomed at the corner of his breathing mouth. Because returning to the court, feeling the exhilaration of sweating profusely, because hard work pays off. The system should be calculating growth potential, and the results are definitely expected. Based on game experience, upgrading in the early stages is relatively easy. Playing 1 or 2 goblins can accumulate experience by 100%. So, he just practiced more than 150 serves, and even if he cannot upgrade directly, his experience accumulation should be quite significant. That's strange. Growth potential. 37.05%. What? 150 serves, growth potential only increases by 1%. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Partner Strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Partner Strike 150 serves equals approximately 1% of growth potential. Does that also mean that if he wants to achieve 100%, he needs to practice at least 9,450 serves? And is it still in the case where all serve practice is effective? As practice progresses and physical strength decreases, the difficulty may even increase exponentially. Moreover, this is the first upgrade after obtaining the system, and the difficulty of subsequent upgrades will definitely increase. So, relying solely on practice to complete the upgrade is not easy. The practice of competitive sports has always been like this, and the phrase, 1 minute on stage, 10 years off stage, in the performance industry also applies to competitive sports. Every progress is poured with sweat, and improving strength is never so simple. It is impossible to think of shortcuts. Gao Wen has a clear understanding of this, but when he actually sees the numbers, he is still inevitably surprised. So, is this what is called equivalent return? When he saw the numerical value, Gao Wen admitted that his first reaction was still somewhat unexpected and disappointing, and deep down he was looking forward to more returns, but the low mood passed in an instant, and then it reignited with excitement. The most important thing is that he won a second chance. As long as he can stand healthy on the field, all of this is worth celebrating and celebrating. Moreover, even if the growth potential growth rate is not significant, he can truly see the effect of hard work and effort, proving that there will inevitably be rewards for effort, which is enough. Besides, how does doubling the training effect reflect this? Gao Wen's focus shifted from the growth potential value towards the technical attributes above, and the total value remained at 63, unchanged. However, the serving in the subordinate sub-items seemed to have slightly increased. Previously, serving was the lowest value among all categories, even falling slightly behind the forehand. However, now the gap between the two has narrowed slightly, and the two-bar chart seem to be about to become consistent. Gao Wen is a bit unsure, is it an illusion of his own blurred vision? Or is serving really slightly improved? After all, the starting point for serving is already relatively low, and with the doubling of training effects, it is reasonable to see a slight increase, even if it is only a small amount, in a short period of time. Assuming this is not Gao Wen's illusion, as serving has indeed improved, which means the biggest highlight of the system is not the accumulation and increase of growth potential, but a more scientific, systematic, clear, and detailed training system. With the halo of doubling the training effect, as long as Gao Wen invests in training with a down-to-earth attitude, his strength can be gradually improved. In this way, the system name of Tennis Training Master can also be reasonably explained. However, the training has only just begun, with only 150 serves at most, which is the level of warm-up. He still needs to continue to explore and research, and whether the values will increase will be clearer. Gripping his fists, Gao Wen ignited his fighting spirit again, and with great enthusiasm, he began to busy himself, packing the scattered tennis balls on the ground into the supermarket shopping cart. On the other side of the field, McDonald is practicing forehand hitting against the wall. Bang! Bang! McDonald's hitting sound is very solid, and he is a typical hard ground player. The overall hitting is relatively flat and fast, without much rotation. It relies on grabbing the ball to improve the rhythm, and solid hitting to enhance speed and strength, winning an advantage in confrontation. The hitting points are often quite correct, mostly in the dessert area, so the sound of hitting is relatively solid. In addition, due to his low height, he has agile footsteps, efficient movement, wide coverage, and impressive defensive performance. According to the development trajectory of the previous life, after entering the professional arena, McDonald is also commendable. The highest ranking in his career reached 57th place in 2018, and he also has 2 records in the round of 16 of the Grand Slam on his resume. He can be said to be an outstanding backbone player in the fiercely competitive tour. Of course, McDonald is still young and has just left the youth stage, with some gap between his professional level and his hard power. However, objectively speaking, his hard power is still on top of Gao Wen, and he has a considerable lead advantage. Defeating Gao Wen is not a difficult task. The autumn season that just ended last month is the most direct proof. Cha! A deviation in the timing of a shot, where the tennis ball failed to hit the dessert and missed the best time to hit the racket. Instead, it hit the frame of the racket and flew a large arc over McDonald, flying towards the other side of the court like an anti-aircraft gun. McDonald quickly turned around and saw Gao Wen standing across from him with a smile on his face. He shouted, "I'm sorry. Are you Canadian?" Sorry is always on the tip of the tongue. Gawain directly rose and went back, causing McDonald to burst into laughter. As he spoke, his footsteps did not stop. With a few cross steps and lateral movements, Gao Wen was already adjusting his position, his gaze fixed on the tennis ball, waiting for it to rebound and fly to the left and right of his chest. With a forehand pressing down on the ball, he hit it back. The tennis ball drew a downward arc in the air, following a diagonal trajectory and flying towards McDonald's backhand position. From the hitting motion and flight trajectory, it can be seen that this is an invitation for training, an invitation for forehand hitting training. Hoo-hoo. Upon seeing the situation, McDonald closed his mouth with a clear understanding, and without saying much, his attention was already focused. It is also a lateral movement, a continuous adjustment of small steps, searching for the best hitting position in time. In the blink of an eye, it has already reached the diagonal position, and it is also turning to the forehand, refusing to use the backhand. Instead, it pulls the forehand against Gao Wen and hits the tennis ball back with a forehand flat strike. Forehand practice, that's how it started. Whoosh! From the trajectory and movements of the swing, it is evident that McDonald's basic skills are very solid. He successfully completed the borrowing, and the sound of a solid hitting ball came back from the air. Then, the speed and strength of the tennis ball flew back significantly increased, dragging out a long tail in the golden sunlight. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Landing Point Control. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Landing Point Control Forehand versus Forehand. This is a common strongest weapon showdown in tennis, as most players have a forehand that is stronger than a backhand, and the forehand is often a powerful weapon for attacking and attacking. Juan Martín del Potro, who won the 2009 US Open and was affectionately referred to as his senior brother by fans, had a violent forehand that could be described as a nuclear bomb. McDonald's forehand was flat and fast, despite being limited by strength and lacking tail force. The speed of the flying shot rushed like an arrow, and the tennis ball seemed to have been compressed into an oval shape, rushing towards the face door in a pointed cone posture. It was evident that he should have used 8 successful forces, with some reservations. Because it is a forehand practice, there is no need to move or predict, just stand in place and wait. But in tennis matches, if one's footsteps are lazy and they really stand still, then losing is the only result. The adjustment of stepping and braking must be done at all times. During the tennis flight, keep observing and constantly adjust your feet to find the most comfortable and suitable hitting position and timing. Step on. Step on. Gowon's eyes were fixed on the tennis ball, noticing that McDonald's incoming ball did not spin, but the return ball landed deep within the baseline, less than 50 centimeters away. Even without aiming at the sideline to hit the ball, it was not far away. This means that after the tennis ball rebounded from the bottom, there was not much space left for Gowon to hit the ball. Either take a big step back and strive for hitting space, finding the best hitting point, either, it's like how Gowon is now, adjust your steps, stand firm on the soles of your feet, bend your knees, lower your center of gravity, and then when the tennis ball rebounds rapidly on the ground, take the lead at the hitting point below your waist. Bang! The racket can feel the tremendous impact of the tennis ball, but the wrist remains stable, quickly pulling and rubbing to ensure full contact between the racket and the tennis ball, and pushing the entire body forward. The force is transmitted from the heel and poured onto the racket through the arm. At the same time, the shoulders and arms work together to exert pressure forward, creating a large loop swing. Cha! The tennis ball rushes out at high speed like an arrow leaving a string, creating a large parabolic trajectory and soaring in the wind. Although McDonald's figure is relatively thin, his upper limb muscles are still better than Gowon's, and his forehand strength is also stronger. Although he didn't exert all his strength at this moment and returned the ball deep and fast enough, he still gave Gowon space to counterattack. When returning the ball, he made full use of his body's strength to stack up, and then he could see the tennis ball spinning at high speed, falling rapidly like a shooting star towards the dead corner where the sideline and baseline intersect. Rotate. Bounce. Gowon's return ball significantly increased more spin, not only aiming at the dead corner, but also increasing the bounce of the tennis ball after landing. For McDonald, who was at a disadvantage in height, if he hit the ball above the shoulder, the quality of the return ball would definitely be better, and the entire receiving action would be awkward. With one return, McDonald could clearly feel the improvement in the quality of Gowon's return. However, he remained calm and composed, taking small adjustments in a row, pulling his feet out of the doubles line, and then taking a step up to intercept the ball on the upward trajectory of the tennis ball. He grabbed the receiving spot at his chest position, and then, step up. A forward charge. McDonald covered the tennis ball that had not fully bounced up with all his might, cleverly utilizing the power of the incoming ball to complete the return. Bang! The tennis ball came back at a faster and stronger speed, and just now Gowon deliberately used friction to pull out a parabolic curve, soaring over the net, but now McDonald is pressing down again, and the tennis ball is almost flying over against the net, like a mischievous rabbit, charging straight towards Gowon's chest. Gao Wen could clearly feel that the space for returning the ball was further compressed, and the strength and speed of the incoming ball were also further improved. Although he tried to keep up with McDonald's rhythm and use high speed to counterattack the tennis ball, at present, the all-round gap in strength still puts Gao Wen at a disadvantage. Come and go. Come and go. In the same forehand confrontation, the gap gradually widened. With the increase of back and forth movements, McDonald became more and more comfortable and relaxed, and the quality of his return shots always maintained a high level. Gao Wen's return quality continues to decline, with the depth, bounce, strength, and rotation of the return all decreasing. So, Gao Wen's return became shallower, and McDonald's footsteps slowly approached the baseline. If it were a formal competition, McDonald would have started killing the board long ago, but now it is forehand practice, so he is constantly adjusting and persevering, and there is no fatal strike. Gao Wen realized that this would not work. After the gap between advantages and disadvantages gradually widened, it could not be reversed in the end. He must make changes. Since the impact of force is not enough, we can only start with rotation. My eyes were fixed on McDonald's return, which was not as deep this time, and there was still a big step away from the baseline. Opportunity. Gao Wen immediately realized that he was stepping on the ground with a sudden step, taking a vertical step and pulling his body out horizontally. He deliberately pulled his body out a bit and then made a slightly earlier shot. The height of the rebound of the tennis ball had just crossed his waist, and his right hand held the racket and had already stepped forward to hit the ball. Instead of exerting full force, it was a clever skateboard-style hit, fully experiencing the process of the tennis ball passing through the entire tennis racket net line. Sufficient friction applied enough rotation, and the force exerted by McDonald on the tennis ball allowed Gawain to clearly feel the intense shaking of the racket and threading. However, at this moment, it became Gawain's assistance, and instead used the reaction force of these forces to apply to the tennis ball. Then, with a gentle flick of the wrist, whoosh. The flight trajectory of tennis has undergone some changes. Previously, the ball was always returning towards the area close to the baseline, but now it is closer to the serving area, and the shallower landing point brings a larger angle. Hula. Tennis doesn't seem to have much power, but its speed has increased by a certain level. It flies lightly and at full force, with a refractive angle expanding from 30 degrees to 60 degrees. After landing, it flies towards the side audience stands. A change in the depth of the landing point can instantly turn the tide. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Superball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Superball. McDonald sensed the crisis at the moment Gao Wen was filming. With a skateboard-style light tap that relied on power, Gao Wen reversed the disadvantage of strong and powerful thrusts, tearing open the angle and instantly disrupting McDonald's rhythm. But McDonald, who was fully focused on hitting the ball, did not lose his focus. He lightly jumped in place, kicked his left foot hard, and his body darted out like an arrow leaving the string. His body stretched out to the extreme, and in a continuous horizontal movement of big strides, his right arm straightened out, reaching towards the high and soaring tennis ball. At this point, McDonald had already lost the position of the best hitting point, but he still did his best. With a strong kick in his fast-running footsteps, he threw himself completely out like a baseball player sliding a base, and then fully utilized the power of the kick to complete the twisting and shoulder-throwing motion, swinging his arm horizontally. Got it. The high-speed flying tennis ball collided with the racket, and by this time, McDonald had lost control of his body and had no further reservations. Stand up, give off your shoulders, swing your arms, and hit the ball. The entire movement was completed in one go, swinging with faster speed and higher strength, and even after hitting the ball, the forehand swing did not end. The racket completed a Thomas turn on the head, with its gaze still fixed on the tennis ball. Whoosh! Pop! The tennis ball turned into a mustard yellow streamline, pulling at an even more outrageous angle, flying against the net, quickly falling directly into the serving area, with a refracted angle of 75 degrees, and then soaring high like a shooting star towards the audience stands. Damn it! Big angle versus bigger angle. With the help of Gao Wen's tearing angle forehand return, McDonald tore a larger angle and directly hit a return shot similar to an outside corner serve. The tennis ball accurately landed inside the serve area and rushed towards the direction outside the doubles area, and the bounce after landing was very high and very fast. Gao Wen immediately realized that his return ball had not been able to completely suppress McDonald. Similarly, McDonald's return ball does not require prejudgment to clearly see the line, as this is a forehand pull practice where the foot stays in place. But the problem now is not about prediction, but about hitting the ball. McDonald's return ball bounced high, and from the upward curve, the height of the bounce was already able to cross Gawain's head. What should we do? Step on. Step on. Gao Wen adjusted his position in small, continuous steps, quickly moving horizontally. His body had already entered the shadow area from the sun, disappearing like a ninja. However, his gaze remained motionless and raised high, locking onto the tennis ball bathed in the golden sunlight. The wind resounds in my ears. Kick off the ground. Jump. A tall man with a height of 193 centimeters jumped up, his legs soaring in the air, his back arched and bent like a carved bow. Through the beautiful curve of his back, he could clearly see the clear blue and brilliant gold, and his entire figure appeared in the sunlight without shadows. Raise your hand. Raise your shoulders. The whole body had stretched to the extreme, like a kite soaring freely under the blue sky, light and free. The perfect hovering brought a pure visual enjoyment, but Gao Wen did not notice it at all, his attention was completely focused. Gao Wen stared intently at the tennis ball. At this moment, the hitting point had already crossed his head, but he still raised the racket high, making full use of the jumping height and his own height. The racket became an extension of his arm, seizing the high ground, finding the hitting point, and then, the forearm quickly swings and vibrates with all its strength like a whip, while the wrist skillfully presses down to create a hitting effect that blocks the ball from top to bottom. Scratch. The forearm can feel the strong force of the tennis ball's rapid impact, but the rapid swing of the arm strongly suppresses the vibration, making a full swing. Bang. Fully suppress. Force a counterattack. Tennis balls fly out like cannons. Boom. The tennis ball flew in a straight parabolic trajectory, hitting the ground fiercely at an angle of 75 degrees, like a bomber flying low over a city. In the collision of power and force, the flight path was perfectly controlled, and the rotation and speed were completely crushed by the force. Boom. The top-down flight trajectory heavily hit the inner side of McDonald's serving area, shallow and oblique, hitting the dead corner of the bottom line of the serving area and shooting out like a meteor. The combination of speed, as well as the doubling of strength and power, unleashed an incredible burst of energy in the tennis ball's flight. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, it had already disappeared, seemingly leaving only a ball mark on the ground, but the tennis ball disappeared without a trace, and the line of sight could no longer capture it. McDonald still stood in his forehand position, not losing his position. In theory, he was still able to complete the reaction, even catching and returning the ball. However, the tennis ball, which combined speed and strength, directly broke the limitations of the reflex nerve and rushed towards the audience seat before he could react. Stay still. Unable to move. He was staring intently at the spot, only subconsciously stretching out his racket, without knowing what was going on with the tennis ball's distribution line. The next second, he felt a gust of wind passing by, reflexively turning his head and watching the tennis ball drag its long tail up to the stands. And his footsteps, like nails growing, did not make any movement at all. Turn around, turn back again, turn back again. Looking back and forth between the audience seat and the landing point on the field, perhaps the ball imprint left inside the field can prove everything that happened just now. And the landing point of the return ball is definitely within bounds, which is a perfect return. Breathing. Breathing. The heart pounded fiercely against the chest, adrenaline burst incessantly, and his entire head roared. Then, MacDonald gasped for breath and lifted his head slightly, only to find the sun slowly rising so dazzling. Forehand versus forehand, Gao 1, win. The one who has continuously accumulated advantages through strength and speed is MacDonald, who has already accumulated enough advantages in long forehand draws. In the midst of the predicament, Gao 1 took the lead in making changes, using rotation to reverse the unfavorable situation, which also forced MacDonald to hit hard and hit a maximum landing point. However, unexpectedly, Gao 1 retaliated with a powerful forehand shot, leveraging his strength and utilizing his height advantage and forearm strength. In the end, he hit an unstoppable ball, and MacDonald could only sigh at the ball. His reaction was suppressed, and it was indeed amazing. MacDonald looked at the empty stands of the stadium with a hint of fascination, and couldn't help but let out a wry sigh. But the emotional linger was only brief, and then he turned his head to give applause to Gao 1. This hit was indeed worthy of applause and encouragement. However, the words spoken in his mouth were, "Sorry." After MacDonald finished speaking, he showed a hint of helplessness and apologized, with the corners of his mouth gently raised as he shook his head to show helplessness and chuckled lightly. "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Shortcuts to Improvement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Shortcuts to Improvement. Sorry. Why are you sorry? Did Gao Wen's superpower hit the ball out of bounds? Did MacDonald apologize only then? Of course not. Gao Wen's return ball accurately fell within bounds, while MacDonald's apology was due to another matter, his own return. Generally speaking, during practice, they tend to avoid hitting the ball to the limit. After all, this is a fundamental practice at the technical level, and forehand practice between both sides is the core. Not winning, not even in practice matches. Both sides must feed each other and play each other to ensure continuity. Although Gao Wen's return ball landing point is very tricky, it is still within normal control range. He mainly changes the hitting rhythm through changes in rotation, which is an important part of forehand practice. However, MacDonald's return was not. In a state where his body was fully stretched and his center of gravity was unstable, he exerted all his strength to hit a maximum return ball, leaving no room for Gao 1 to return the ball. Although Gao 1 countered with a super powerful return, creating a breathtaking return, MacDonald simply stuck in place without being able to respond, but ultimately, it was MacDonald's hitting that disrupted the practice rhythm. Because it was a hitting practice, compared to congratulating Gao 1, MacDonald was the first to express his apologies. Sorry, sorry. MacDonald took the initiative to run forward, apologizing repeatedly, and then he saw Gao 1 turn his head to meet his gaze, but it was completely unexpected. It's not about smiling all over to say, "It's okay," or joking with Canadians, nor showing off or making fun of themselves, but rather a kind of eager to try, yes, eager to try, as if still unsatisfied. The problem is that in hitting practice, they still need to avoid such hitting as much as possible to avoid injury. But Gao 1 exuded a kind of excitement all over his body, with a kind of aggression that was hard to describe in words. His entire eyes were shining, just like a clown seeing Batman. So, is he Batman? Is Gao 1 a joker? The fleeting thoughts in my mind did not ease the atmosphere, and my words still stuck in my throat. Looking at Gao 1, I was full of confusion. "Dear Mike, don't worry, don't worry." Gao 1 gently raised the corner of his mouth, narrowed his eyes slightly, with a lewd light, and even rubbed his hands, almost spitting in the palm of his hand, emitting an eager excitement all over his body. That look, strange. It's not just the Joker seeing Batman, but the big bad wolf seeing Little Red Riding Hood. MacDonald's footsteps paused for a moment as he looked at Gao 1, his eyes shining brightly. He was stunned for a moment, and then, slowly, strategically leaned back. Why do you look like you're seeing free labor? Are you thinking about practicing more after today's training? My schedule is already full, and I don't have time to practice more for presentations, classes, and training. Since entering university, Gao1 has been training hard because he can feel the strengthening of competition, and after realizing his shortcomings, he becomes even more hardworking. However, tennis training often requires partners, so McDonald, who is also a freshman, often accompanies Gao1 for further training. At this moment, seeing Gao1's gaze, McDonald's first reaction was like this. If Gao1 still needs to further increase his training, he may really be a bit overwhelmed. After all, there is still hard work to take care of in college. Ha ha ha. Watching McDonald's wary expression, Gawain could no longer hold back and burst into laughter. Smiling is because of McDonald, but it's not just that. Just now, during his forehand practice with McDonald, his growth potential increased by a whopping 1%. In the previous serve practice, practicing 150 serves tirelessly resulted in a 1% increase in growth potential. Now practicing a forehand showdown with McDonald has increased growth potential by 1%. The ratio of effort to return shows a geometric multiple increase, which is truly gratifying. Gao1 immediately remembered the explanation about growth potential. Growth potential can be obtained through basic training, daily training, and competitions. The specific value will vary depending on the content, intensity, difficulty, and method of training or competition. It can now be preliminarily confirmed that the higher the difficulty of practice and the more intense the intensity of confrontation, the greater the growth potential will be. Although the 1% increase is still not high, it once again confirms that the core function of the system is still training, and the potential for growth is temporarily unknown. But no matter what, now the system's functions are gradually being excavated, which also allows Gao1 to see the possibility of constantly improving himself. As long as you work hard enough, you can grow. Perhaps, with further exploration, the growth potential can be further explored, and it will no longer be 1% or 2%. At this moment, McDonald, in Gawain's eyes, is like a shimmering fragrant steamed bun. Undoubtedly, he is a good guy who can rank in the top 100 in the world in the future. He can increase the difficulty of practicing ball while walking leisurely, and his opponents must also improve their form. Perhaps for others, McDonald may seem too serious and invested, but for Gao1, it's just right. He needs such a training partner, which is much better than burying himself in hard work. McDonald once again noticed the light in Gawain's eyes. Why is there always a correct feeling of an ominous premonition? However, Gao1 immediately straightened his waist and pounded his chest, saying, "Mike, I was thinking we could study together, keep up with the school curriculum, study hard, and make progress every day." Learning. McDonald strongly doubted. Why do I always think that what you're talking about learning is training? Ha ha ha. Gao1 burst out laughing happily again, watching McDonald turn around and stumble back and forth. He simply gave up his plan to conceal his intentions and loudly called out, "Mike, practice ball. Let's practice ball together again. Learning is important, but practice is also important. Mike, aren't you worried about not keeping up with your physical strength?" McDonald was completely unaware that he had become the wool-polishing tool in Gawain's eyes. He stopped and lit a flame in his sight. He turned around and waved his right hand to Gawain, but his movements were all too obvious. "Bring your horse over." Bang! Gao1 picked up a tennis ball from his feet, without hesitation, and directly racketed over. Then, the two of them began a new round of forehand ball training. The crisp sound of the tennis ball landing echoed in the soundless field, as if stirring up the breath of youth and sweat. The rising sun in the early morning slowly climbed up the treetops, and the golden sunlight scattered all over the ground, reflecting on the azure sky above my head. It was so clear and deep, as if the whole world was extending endlessly. With just open arms, one could embrace the boundless sky and vast sea. Everything is possible. End of this chapter.